Hey folks, welcome to another episode of KSP Kerbal Space Program. So you may wonder what I have been doing since I've been playing so much Witcher 3. Well, I took a day off and started playing some KSP. And played KSP all day long. So as you can see, I've decked out all my buildings in career mode. I've got everything, pretty much not completely done. I've got got one more level of the space plane hangar to upgrade, and the one more level, or two levels of the facility administration building, but considering I don't use either one of them very much, that's why they're still where they're at. Everything else is pretty much it's maxed out. So what was I thinking about doing? Well, I was looking around online, and I found, I looked, because of my old space station, I've been thinking about things like, let's go to Duna, let's go to Eve, let's go to all these other places, which you can create a rocket system that you can launch and take to these places, but you would have to, go 3 or 4 times in order to do everything. So what I want to do is I want to create something where I have something in space and I can launch up a rover system, and then I can launch up an ore mining system, and then launch up a vessel to carry all that stuff to any other planet that I want to go to. But in order to do that, the first thing that we need to do is create some kind of docking station or whatnot in space. So that's what I'm going to do over, the next couple episodes or however long it takes. Now, I'm not going to record every minute because this is going to take hours and hours and hours and hours. But what I am going to record is showing what the ships look like. There are, there's the outer poles, the inner poles, there's the central hub, and then there's all the corners, a corner hub. And what I've done is I've created ships, mini test ships yesterday. As you can see, all of these, and as I scroll down all through, all these are all test ships in the triple S, one SSS. These are my actual, let's go and let's send these out ships. There's all 4 of them right there. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ships. There's my center section with a tug. There's I think there should be a center, just a center section with a tug. There's a corner section. There's a corner section with a tug, an inner connector, an outer connector. And we'll show you each one of these ships in this first episode. We'll go over everything that I've done, everything that I've created, where I got the ideas from, and all that other stuff. And go from there. So here we go. Let's load the first one. All right, this is my very center. This is going to be the center of the entire space station. And I've set this up to where I can do it in as few trips up as possible. So as you can see here, there's my little tug that I can use to fly this all around. Now, the guy who created that tug, his name is Shadow something. I think it's Shadow Zone. I'm looking for his name right now just to be sure, because I want to give credit where credit is due. I did not create this tug. You've seen if you look in my older videos, you see my huge tug that I like to use, and I'm looking for it right now. Where's it at? His name is Shadow Zone, and the idea came from his. The whole idea process behind this really came from his giant hexagon fueling station. And he did such a great job on that space station that, it's just, he did a really good job. So what I did was I modified his and kind of made it my own a little bit. But I still, things like the tug. All right, here's his tug. I 100% copied this tug exactly the way that he had built it. And the reason why is because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. This tub works fantastic in space, moving and docking and all that other stuff. It can move large loads. It doesn't have very many problems. It's got plenty of monopropellant for what I'm doing with it. It's got 2 docking ports so that it can connect from either side. It's got an ASAS unit to help it spin. It's got some liquid puffs, monopropellant fuels engines so that it can go fast if you need to travel long distances. It's got like 8 RCS thruster blocks. It's got batteries. It's got freaking photovoltaic panels. It's got everything it needs. Now, I did not clip or anything in any part, any of this ship, any of these designs. So what you see is what you get. There's nothing hidden behind. The only things that are clipped in any way was the connection of the fuel hubs. These are actual Kerbalkind S3 3600 tanks, and I put an octagonal strut all the way around, 6 of them, and then connected these to them and then sunk it in one till the edge touched the edge of the other. As you can see, I've got these little gaps. I wanted to make it as somewhat realistic as possible, but it does clip in right there a little bit, but it lets me do that in normal mode, so I don't consider it a cheat. Then this is just a fitting, and then a cupola module, or however that's said, with a probe on top. Now, if you notice my fairing is kind of funny. Instead of it being just one solid piece, an angle at the top, it's many, many pieces, and there's a reason behind that. Now, I tried this fairing. I tried taking off with it many times, and when I get to about 30,000 feet, or a little bit above that, I have to break this fairing loose in order, because it's so much weight. I don't know why the fairings are so damn heavy in this game. It doesn't make any sense. They shouldn't be so heavy. They should be made out of like fiberglass or something. But they're extremely heavy, and because they're so heavy, when you get up to a certain point, you can get rid of them. Once you get to the top part of your atmosphere, you can drop your fairings, and then you don't risk any heat damage to any of your components. And in order to drop your fairings at a high speed, they have to be in small chunks like this. It shoots them out easier, makes this real brilliant star pattern in the sky, which I'll show, and it keeps it from doing any damage to the ship. If it was one solid piece, or even 2 or 3 solid pieces, this portion of the fairing, it comes back and it hits this part of the payload and causes damage. So I found that if you make it in smaller pieces, especially towards the top, it shoots out even further because they're lighter. And when they explode, it shoots out and completely misses the ship. All right, so let's load the next piece. This is the center set of the tug. As you can see, it's just all of my arms are going to connect to this. It's going to be like a wagon wheel, and this is just going to be the center station with a dock on the bottom. As you can see right there, it's going to be a Clampetron senior dock. So let's load the next piece. The next piece. All right, we'll show the corners. Now, it's all the same platform, same lifting platform. You got a mammoth with some fuel and some of these big kickbacks, and then it breaks down to a Goliath, or a Rhino rather. Sorry, but it breaks down into a Rhino engine with some of the thumpers. And with this particular setup, there's nothing special to it. With this particular setup, I can get up to a 500,000 kilogram payload into space, including it. The total weight can go as high as a little over 500,000, and I'll still have enough TWR and Delta V to get into space. Now, these are the corners, and these are a little bit different than his corners, because his corners went all the way around, like the center. I didn't like that look personally, so I did it just what the ones I needed. I didn't want the extra points, connectors on there that you didn't need for each corner. This looks a little bit better in my opinion. It's not, it just, to me, it looks a little bit better. And this is just a Kerbalkind S3 7200 tank with some octagonal struts, hooked in 3 places, and then tanks on them. And then the next piece, there's 2 more pieces that are different. There's that was a corner section. There's a corner section also with a tug. I've got another tug right in between those 2 parts down here on the bottom. And then there is the interconnector, which these are completely different than his. And there's a reason behind that. I would have built his exact station. In fact, I did build his station. If I come up here and show you, let's back out first. I built his exact station. I looked at his videos, and I built his exact station exactly the way that he built it. There it is. That's his outer line. Let's get rid of the outer line. Let's do his inner line. Where's the inner line? Center line. There it is. This is his center line compared to my center line. Or is that my center line? No, that's his. His has got a double setup with using these strut things or whatever, these connectors, the structural fuselage, and then lights and whatnot, which I did not put lights on these, and I need to go back and edit that. And I will edit that. I will go put them lights on these. Because, yeah, if I dock something, I want to be able to see it. But other than that, I went from a double to a single. And then, as you can see, I've been able to stack up 6. Oh, wait, no, I do have lights on them. I've got the lights down here on the ends, though, instead of in the middle. And there's no, I didn't put the photovoltaic panels, the big Goliath thing or whatever on these. But I was able to put all 6 that I would need on one tug, and I did that using some of these struts, as you can see here. I tied some struts together and hooked them to a docking clamp and then attached them to the docking clamp. So I just kind of jerry-rigged a little, connection system. And then I shifted it over just a little bit so that it was center line, put my center of mass even in the middle. And these are my inside wagon wheels. Think about it like that. Picture a wagon wheel, and these are the inside spokes. And then, which is different also, because he only had 2 inside spokes, and we're doing 6. But enough, real comparisons. All right, now we have then the outer connectors. There we go. Same launching platform in every piece. And the outer connectors have the gigantors. And they're pretty much the same as the inner connectors, except they've got gigantors where the inner don't. I didn't want those, the panels, I put it all together inside here. And I think I saved it too. I can't remember what I called it though, if anything. Oh, good golly. Let's look for space station. I can just look at the pictures. Maybe I didn't save it. I thought that I saved the whole thing. So that I could go back and look at it. No, apparently I did not. I'm sorry. I lied to you. But those are the main parts. Now, the way that it's going to work out through this video, and I'm not going to do all of it on video. I'm going to launch maybe 1 or 2 pieces and then fast forward it. So I'm not going to be talking through the launches. I'm going to launch them, and then I am going to do the rendezvous, and I might do some of this stuff on camera, but the majority of it's going to be off camera or on camera at really high speed so that you guys aren't having to watch through all this crap and watch the hours and hours it's going to take me to do this. But little note up front. First off, I will be using MechJeb for this. Now, you guys have seen me launch these things, launch ships and all this other stuff into space without MechJeb, and I can do it, you can do it, everybody can do it. But for convenience sake, I'm going to be using MechJeb. The reason is because MechJeb has a rendezvous thing. I can time a launch for rendezvous with another, and it'll get me between 5 and 50K, within that distance of the other parts. And it'll make it so much easier for me to get all these pieces up and connect them all together. Because the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take them all into space, and then I'm going to connect them all together in any fashion, just to get them all connected together so that they don't drift and float away from each other. And then I'm going to start building the space station. And it's going to take a long time. I know it's going to. It's going to take me the entire day to put this space station together. So that's what I'm going to do. That's the plan. And I'm going to use MechJeb for that. Now, there are a couple other mods that I use. I use Kerbal Engineer. So you can see up here, it shows me my TWR and delta V. That's about the only thing that I use it for, that and the readouts down here, so that I don't have to keep looking at parts and stuff and pieces and vessel information and stuff. It's just more convenient to have those little things down here instead of having to look into MechJeb to see them. And there's a few others that I use right now. All right, so let's get our first launch in this video, because we've got our idea. The first thing that we need to send up is our center section with a tug. We need to get a tug into space so that we can move stuff around if we need to. So this is going to be our first launch, and we're going to go into launch. Now I've pre-checked all of these. They're all space at 500,000 kilometers, and they all have just a little bit of fuel left over. So it's really almost a perfect launching system. Now I have set you have to do a couple things with MechJeb in order to get all this to work. If your MechJeb's not working properly, make sure that that your ship can actually get into space. Number two, make sure that you edit your ascent path. Now I've got this one set to 90.5% of a inclination thingy or whatever. Its turn shape is at 90.5. I can get up into space with other vessels at 60%, at 65, at 70. This turn shape is the big thing you have to change, though. I get with this ship anything under about 80%, and the angle has it going too fast in the atmosphere, and it takes a lot of heat damage, or not a lot of heat damage, but it causes so much stress on this that it causes problems. So I just said to heck with it and went from like 80% all the way up to 90.5, and then tried it and it worked. So I haven't really micro-tuned it because I didn't see much sense. First things first, we don't have anything in space. I cleared out all of my junk. And we do have, as you can see, the enhanced lighting effect add-on on, which shows us lighting on the planet where it makes it look like little cities, and we've got clouds, and I put all that in. We have the docking alignment add-on. Of course, we've still got the ScanSat. We've got our science, our MechJeb, Kerbal Engineer, our Chatterer. This one I haven't used yet, HyperEdit, but it supposedly lets you put stuff straight into space. I will not be using it for this because it's kind of cheating, but what I will be using it for is once I get this whole thing into space, to fill it up. Because if all my parts and all my stuff up here, all of the monopropellant tanks and all that other stuff here, let me go back. Well, no, I'm not going to revert. If I reverted back, all them fuel tanks and the monopropellant tanks, they're all empty. You have to empty them in order to be able to get these large structures into space. And you can use HyperEdit, go into miscellaneous tools when you get into space, have that vehicle selected, and you can change the monopropellant amount, liquid. So I'll be using that little cheat just simply to avoid, come on, Chatterer, just simply to avoid having to launch, 10 more ships to fill it up. That's all. That's the only thing that I'm going to do. Once I get it up there, get the whole station together, I'll click on the station, take control of it, and then use HyperEdit to fill all the tanks up, and that's that. From then on, I won't use it on it, but that's just to get it full so that it's ready to be used for our next set of videos, which will be an excursion to Duna with our rover and all that other good stuff. All right, so let's engage the autopilot. Because this is the first piece, it doesn't need a rendezvous, so we're ready to go. So we just back out some so that the noise don't kill us, and then we hit space and we launch. Now I'm letting MechJeb do this because I am sick and tired, personally, of launching ships into space. It's easy. You do the same exact thing that MechJeb does. This just lets me sit back, talk to you guys, and drink some water while I'm doing it. Now, when I go to Duna, when I do my transfer to Duna, I do that transfer, I did for the first time, when I did it the first time. Now, I've sent like 3 things to Duna already. I've already mapped Duna, I've already mapped Ike with ScanSat. I did that off camera because it's the same as doing the Minmus, and all of that. There's just really not a whole lot of thrill in it. But I did all that. But I have not landed on Duna or Ike yet, and I will do that on camera. So there goes our first stage busting off them solid fuel boosters. And there we go. Now that big Goliath, monolith, or whatever it's called, that mammoth engine is just pumping us into space. And this design doesn't have very many problems. I mean, I'll get a little bit of a wobble every once in a while, but not only with like one or two of these setups, these payloads. The payload's not wobbling around. Everything's, tight and the way that it should be. You get up into space without very much hassle. This ship is completely launchable manual, because I have launched them manual. You can get this into space at about 500,000 meters and not have very many issues. Anybody can do it. As long as you can get into space, you can get this into space. And it's not that expensive considering the size of the payload. I think it was about $350,000 to get this whole thing into space. And if you consider the tonnage, almost 500,000 tons, or 500 tons, or however much that is, 500,000 kilograms, there we go. To get that much into space, it's not bad for $350K. And then these guys will pop off, and the shell. Now, notice that fancy star pattern. I like that. All right, shut up. Shut up, shut up. But this does a really excellent job of getting into space. Now, this is going to be the only launch that I do at regular time. Everything else from the end of this episode on is all going to be fast forwarded and whatnot. I'm just showing you live that these vehicles can get into space. I don't know how to shut that off. Mute. There we go. All right. I just wanted to show you that you can get into space with this without too many problems. 500. There we go. I'm at 500 apoapsis, 500 meters, or 500K. And now he's going to transfer to the other. Now, one thing that I noticed that I would like to have done, but I forgot to do, was on these, add a few reaction wheels. If you put a few reaction wheels in there and then just use some struts, this thing will turn a lot easier. But seeing as to how this is the first piece, everything's going to connect to this, it's not that big a deal. I don't have to go back and change it. But when I go to launch the corners, I'm going to add a few reaction wheels to them, if they don't already have them. I know that I put reaction wheels on the arm parts because them things are heavy as hell. I mean, there's 6 of them. These big tanks, though, even empty, these big tanks are just ungodly heavy. It's all, to fill these up, it only adds about 25 to 30% extra weight of the weight that's there already. I mean, it's a ridiculous amount of weight. Now, this is where it likes to goof off because that marker moves and it doesn't have enough reaction wheels to stay with it. So it gets down to 0.2 meters per second, but we're at 500 and 500, so I'm just going to leave it there. I'm not going to make it adjust. That's a perfect place to be. So let's hit T to slow it down if we can. This is where it's going to park. This is where it's going to be. I'm just letting it stop moving, and then I'll get the SAS off and on again. There we go. And I could also fast forward just a little bit, and it would stop it. All right, so there's our first piece in space. At this point, I can disconnect from here, decouple the node, because I don't need any of this fuel. And now we have just our piece. I can go into docking and then control from wherever. Doesn't really matter. Just right click back here and hit control from here. And then I can hit turn RCS on. And then I can push away just a little bit from that guy. There we go. So this guy I'll take away using the space station, the space thingy. But this is where this guy's going to be. He's going to be right there. So we're going to turn the RCS off and the SAS off. It's right out of perfectly, almost perfect circular thingy orbit. So we're going to go back to the space station. And then what I do after each flight, because I can, not because I need to, but because it's easier to do, is come back here and get rid of... Oh, dadgummit, I forgot to rename it. So let's go back. All right, so we're going to click on this guy, or this guy. Actually, it's this guy. And we're going to rename the vessel. Space Station Inzainia. And we're going to set it to a station and hit OK. Now, when we go back to the space station, we can go into here, and anything beyond that we can get rid of. So we can just terminate that because we're not going to try and save it. Now all we've got is our space station Inzainia, which that's all MUN and all that stuff. There it is, 500K out. The SS Inzainia orbiting Kerbal like a pro on a perfect orbit, 500 meters, 500,000 meters. Everything's gravy. Everything's great. It's exactly what we wanted. So, in the next handful of episodes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk for a little bit at the beginning, and then I'm going to launch a bunch of stuff and get it all into space in one big clump, get it all together. I'll probably do all of it off camera because there's not a whole lot to show you except for what I just showed you. When you use MechJeb to do a rendezvous, the rendezvous happens, you end up within 5 to 50 kilometers from your target, so you then just have to micro adjust to rendezvous with it. You've all seen me do rendezvous to collect up Kerbals and stuff that were trapped in space. It's the same process. I'll just launch them, get them all connected together, and then we'll put this bad boy together. That's what's going to take the majority of the time, is getting them into space, getting everything put together. So I'm going to do all that off camera. I'm going to launch them, connect everything up together, and then I'll be back and we will talk a little bit and go over, any problems that I had or whatnot, and then get it all connected together and check out this functional space station with fuel, monopropellant, battery power. And I haven't decided, but I want to put like an attachment somewhere. I don't know where. Maybe the ends of it or something. Or the bottom. Something that goes down that has storage tanks so that I can go to like the moons and stuff. Or when I'm on the moons, I can collect ore and put them on there. Because if you didn't notice, science-wise, I have been busy. Even though I've been playing so much Witcher 3, I have been quite busy since the last episode. So we only have like 6 places now. 6 nodes that we haven't unlocked, which is cores. That I would really love to have for my rover. Let me show you my rover real quick. This is one of the reasons that I built this whole space station, was so that I could get this dadgum rover out there, connect it to something, and then grab it with a bigger ship so that I could take it to Duna. It's rover science something. Science rover, I thought. It's gonna be here somewhere. Science rover Mark II. There we go. Now I've got a bunch of other ones that I tried. But there's my rover. Now this is not on a ship. I've got one on a ship. Let's see. That's the actual rover. There it is. A Science Rover Mark II delivery system. Now this is the whole deal. From the ground to space with a tug so that I can dock to here and then connect it to another ship. And this is my rover. Now this is a landing platform that I built specifically for Duna. So I can change this. I can just take this part off and put one of these that I've built. It's got rockets on it that can slow its descent down so that I can land on moons. But for a planetary body, or at least Duna and Kerbin, this works great. 6 parachutes will slow it down to about 4 or 3.5 to 4, maybe 5 meters per second. And it's got all the science that you need. It's got little landing things, ladders. It's got a big science part in here that's going to be a pain in the butt to reset because I've covered it in solar panels. And it's got all my little science gadgets all on there. Everything. And I put these legs on there in case it happens to flip over. Although on a planet, it's not going to help it too much, because if it flips on a planet, it's probably going to blow up. But if it flips on a moon, sometimes it don't break. And you can use these landing struts. They'll pop this way. They'll go whoop, and they'll flip it back over. But on the bottom, got some batteries, a atmospheric fluid spectrum variometer, mech jeb, and then the core, so that I can drive it without a Kerbinaut on it if I need to. And see how that core sideways? That's why I had to put this other core on there, one pointing up, so that for takeoff, I could take it off without having to have this be a manned vessel. This is a completely unmanned vessel. But anyhow, that's going to be the end of the episode. I've showed you all my little creations, or at least the ones that I plan to use here real soon. I'm going to get all that stuff that I told you that I was going to get done here today, and then I'll start recording again later. And I might pop in and record a little here and there, to add in and fast forward or whatever. I don't know how I'm going to do it, to be honest. But I will see you all back once I get it all into space, and once I start getting ready to put it all together. I'll show you me using the tug a little bit, fast forward it or something like that, and then we'll go to putting this bad boy together. All right, guys. Hope you're having a great day. If you are. And hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe if you want to see the rest of it. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day.